We have to recognize their patterns of behavior. We really want to understand that the narcissistic persona has a particular pattern of behavior, but so do we. So there is a way in which we engage and interact with those that are working from their narcissistic persona, where to a degree, we're actually sort of moving into almost fusing with it, as we like to say. And in order to survive it, the first thing that we have to become aware of is how we adapt, what it is that we do ourselves, how it is that we respond to them, how it is that we move into that relationship with them so that we can actually start to release ourselves from it as well, okay? Because that's a really important part of this, a really important consideration, okay? We all use, whether we realize it or not, we use, and others around us also, we use our own self-protective personas in reaction to narcissistic behavior. We can't help it, right? Our natural defense mechanism, our survival mechanism that gets triggered when we're around those that are using narcissistic behaviors is to shift into our own mode of self-protection. And again, personas simply represent patterns of behavior that we use to deal with people in situations, okay? They come from our self-protective system, and the ones that we like to use depend on our particular brain organization, whether you understand that through the striving styles, our tool, or the Myers-Briggs, because they are actually linked to the quadrants of the brain. So there are different ways in which we will adapt. So then those with narcissistic personas, they do trigger our self-protective behavior, and if we're our self-protective persona, and if we're not aware that we have gone into survival, if we're not aware that we are feeding the narcissist with our own power, in essence, giving it to them to a degree, we can actually lose ourselves for years into codependent, adaptive, and even abusive relationships. And that's really what we want to protect. And the number of people, and you can tell me if you've got some similar stories to this, the number of clients that we have worked with where they have found themselves caught working with a leader who goes into the narcissistic persona frequently. And because over time working with that, their own self-protection forces them to, it erodes their confidence. When we work out of our self-protective system, we're not feeling strong and confident, right? And so we're moving to adapt, and we're trying to make it okay. And we just keep thinking, maybe if I do this, and maybe if I try that, and somehow believing that we have some control over or influence over the behavior if we just do something that's going to bring that change about. And so that's why it's really important to understand what we may do in order to fuse into that relationship with a narcissistic persona. We don't intend to, it's not conscious, but we really have to think about the fact that their behavior triggers a self-protective response in us. We need to be aware of that, and I'm going to give you the tips for actually shifting out of it and surviving beyond it, okay? So many who are in fused relationships with narcissists and those with a narcissistic persona really do convince themselves, and I did it for many, many years in my marriage, convince myself that it was okay, that it was all right, and that we will just have, that we have some power over them, or we have some control or some kind of level of influence over them. But the reality is that we don't. And that's one of the sort of the hardest things to first come to in order for us to shift out of this, that we actually can't control their behavior. We can't influence it. We can't shift it. We can tell you how many times we've tried with our clients and in our personal lives. We can't shift it. And so we have to move to a different place of accepting it, but then looking at our own behavior and our response to their what's coming out, what's being triggered by them.